There is a place in the Philippines, in a 1.5-mile strip, where there are 15,000 girls trafficked in the sex trade. Many, if not most of these girls, were deceived and tricked and trafficked into the sex trade, believing that they would get a better education, believing that they would make a great income, believing they would experience the lights of the big city. They just need a way out. I'm Kenny, the founder of Wipe Every Tear, and we are here to bring freedom and hope and a future to girls trafficked in the sex trade. And we want to unashamedly go in the name of Jesus and set them free. Well, Wipe Every Tear began in the jungles of the Philippines. In 2008, we went and we took a volleyball team there. And I was talking with this girl in a little hut, a little gazebo, and she had told me that she was hungry. I asked her, how hungry are you? She held out her hand and she said, well, Coach, I get this much rice once or twice a day. And she says, oh, I have these toothaches, Coach, and it hurts when I eat. I asked her if she'd ever been to a dentist. And she laughed and she says no in her broken English. And my heart was broken. As I began to ask more about her life, the Spirit of God just came upon me and started to break me. And I began to really feel God's heart for the poor. I had decided right then that I was going to make a difference in someone's life. So I talked to a pastor that was involved in her life, in the slums, and we did some things. We started supporting them, just me and my wife. And then we were taking continuous trips there every year. And then as the word got out that I was doing this, we sponsored another person, and we started meeting the needs of people, physical needs. You know, we helped people with their cavities. We took little Cecile to the dentist, and 28 cavities later, her pain was gone in her mouth. And that brought great joy to her and unto us, my wife and I. I remember one Christmas very specifically, and I was reading about this thing called human trafficking. And I had heard about it, but I didn't know anything about it. I began to read, and as I began to click and click and click, I began to zero in on Southeast Asia. And then I zeroed in on the Philippines, and I thought, oh my God, I've been in the Philippines, but I didn't see it. I wonder if it's there in the places that I had been. And lo and behold, it was. In 2011, I'm preparing to take another team to the Philippines, and we were going to have an emphasis on ministry in the slums in the area of the sex trade. And we were deeply shocked. We went to the streets, we saw what was happening, and immediately God began to break my heart and give me the vision of my own daughters and how thankful I was that my daughters were born in America. And that the only reason these girls were doing what they were doing is because they were born in the third world. And they were caught, they were tricked. They were tricked into selling their bodies for sex. They were trafficked. And I was deeply touched. So we saw the need. There's a need. They need a safe place to live. So we went, and by faith, a few months later, I hopped on an airplane with two guys. We went to Manila and we started looking for a house. And by faith, we got a house. We secured it by February. In January, I hired a director, a wonderful lady, Rebecca Angeles, who was a professor of business at a university in the Philippines there. And God has directed her to give her life up for these girls. We hired her, again by faith, and we started the Hope House, a 24-hour residential care facility. So right now we have 4 girls, 3 of them are in their first year of college, and we have another girl and she's in her second year of college. And these girls now have hope. They have such a hope that there is something else they can do than sell themselves on the streets or in the bars of Manila. We are looking to change more lives and more girls. We have a desire and a hope to open up a second house, a third house, a fourth house for these girls on the streets. And so if you or your organization, your church, your ministry, if you'd like to get involved, man, we'd just love to have you. We have an IT person volunteer. We have an accountant volunteer. We have an intern from the United States there. And we're looking for teams here in America that want to be involved. We're looking for entrepreneurs that could help us in the area of livelihood, they call it in the Philippines. That is business development, something for these girls to do, for those who cannot be educated formally in a college atmosphere. But God is doing something new in our hearts, in getting our attention in regards to the poor and the oppressed and those in chains. And so I'm seeing a response like never before of people saying, we have to help. It's not an option. We've got to help. And so we want to thank you so much for helping. This is a dream, and you're part of that dream. And so on behalf of our staff in the Philippines and our girls and those of us here in the States, we are just so thankful. We thank you so very much for helping us.